Hello, my name is Ralph Lalama, and I'm the saxophone adjunct professor, saxophone teacher, ensemble teacher here at NYU. And I work here a few days a week. And also I'm a professional musician, been in New York City for about 30 years now. And I'm originally from Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh. I started playing the clarinet when I was 9 years old, given to me by my grandfather, Nofri Lalama, who was a clarinet player, alto player. And I started lessons, and really started liking the sound of music as a whole. The construction struck my ear, even in a simple melody. When you're even a child, I used to hear like where it would go to a bridge of a song, and I didn't know what it was called at the time. Okay, and so then I just started liking music, along with sports. I really like sports. And to make a long story short, I went to start playing the tenor. My father gave me a saxophone when I was 14, put it under the Christmas tree. And I remember, since I played the clarinet, I took the tenor out, that day, Christmas Day, and I started playing a couple little songs, and I really liked that sound. Then I started playing in like rock groups around that time, which consist of music by like James Brown and the Temptations and stuff. And I was improvising on, if anybody remembers any James Brown records, you remember part one was James Brown, Papa Got a Brand New Bag, and then it went into part two with Maceo. And that was me. So I kind of got stuck with Maceo in the sound of that, But I learned a lot from his beat, actually. Okay, I'll make it long. So then I went through high school, all that stuff, and then I went to college, Youngstown State University, Youngstown, Ohio. And I was a clarinet major because they didn't have jazz majors at the time, in 1969. And make a long story short, then I met this man, Tony Leonardi, who ended up heading the jazz department at YSU, but not at that time. He was just a bass student. But he had experience playing with Woody Herman, so he brought a bunch of charts and he started a big band within the school, and the big band became very popular, that the school made it a course, because we would have a concert and they would make more money than the wind ensemble at the concert. So, so economically it was a good idea, and then aesthetically it was a good idea. So then that area started getting into jazz, So to make a long story short, I became a star at Youngstown playing the tenor, and then the last semester of my tenure at YSU, right, the semester I graduated to get a bachelor degree in music education, BME, I met Thad Jones, who he was a guest with the band, and he heard me play, and he kind of liked me. And basically, make a long story short, again, he said, if you want to continue this music, and get better at it, and make a living at it, come to New York. So I took his advice. I graduated in 1975, June of 1975. I was in New York, September 7th. 1975. Okay, and then Thad was such a beautiful guy that about 3 weeks later, my first gig in New York was not with the big band, but was with him, Mel Lewis, Thad Jones, Mel Lewis, George Mraz, Walter Norris, and myself, little Ralphie Lalama, playing saxophone. Okay, so that was a lesson. Okay, and then then I continued in New York, blah blah blah, my first big job, other than subbing with Thad and Mel in the big band, not just a small group, but the big band, I started playing with Woody Herman. And I lasted there. That's where I met Lovano. Joe Lovano was a friend of mine, and I played in his non-net at this present time. And so Woody Herman, I stayed there about 6 months. I came back to New York, started working more, nickel and diming it, trying to get blah, 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 play a little bit, learn more about music. And then I got with Buddy Rich. I got a 1976, 1977 Woody. 1980, joined Buddy Rich to 81. And then after that, I started subbing with, now it was the Mel Lewis Jazz Orchestra. And I started subbing with them, and then I got the gig finally in 1983, and I've been at the Village Vanguard with the Mel Lewis Jazz Orchestra, now the Village Vanguard Jazz Orchestra, since 1983, and this is 2005. And a lot of happened in between that too. I got hooked up with Crisscross Records, made about 5 records as a leader, and and a lot of sideman records. Like I said, I played with the Vanguard Jazz Orchestra, the Carnegie Hall Jazz Band, the Joe Lovano Nonette, a bunch of small groups, in New York you freelance, so you work with a lot of different people. One might ask, how does one survive in New York playing jazz, And, well, one way to do it, you learn a lot of tunes, but one thing I would say, just even deeper than that, is you have to love it, because, there's a lot of ups and downs in any career. If you're a lawyer, you don't start off, making, 500 grand a year. You start at the bottom and you work yourself up, usually, That's the same with this. So you have to really love it to keep it going, to keep moving, to want to practice, to want to, meet people, to want to function, And then also, as far as practically speaking, like I always taught, I'm deeper into teaching through the university here, but even prior to that, I taught like kids in their homes just to make a couple extra bucks. I played gigs I really didn't want to play, not that I hated them, but because I wanted to play just to keep myself in shape. But you do that just to make some money, to stay, to support your jazz habit, so to speak. And then through the longevity of that, you'll meet people along the way that will help you in the business. Like I said, I met John Faddis, Lovano and I have been friends for years. David Schroeder, I got the job here, blah, blah, blah. So the longevity of it, a lot of people make this mistake. Well, I'm going to go to New York. If I don't make it in 5 years, I'm going to leave. For one, make what? I don't know what that means. Make what? My making it was just getting better, and then obviously making a living. You have to make a living to eat and pay the rent. And so the point of it is that you have to love it enough to keep it going, and also get better at your craft. You have to get better at your craft too, because this is New York City, which there's a lot of great musicians here, a lot of great everything here. Has the best. That's why they call it New York. New York. Has the best and the worst. But we'll talk about the positive. But let me start with Woody Herman. Woody Herman, ensemble playing wise and jazz playing. Woody Herman was high school. Buddy Rich was college. Thad Jones and Mel Lewis was the real thing. Okay? I'm not belittling Buddy or Woody, believe me. That's just the degree of how it worked out for me. I thought that was I just stepped up every time one was a little more difficult than the other as far as technically, and mainly technically, and keep it and more chop. Well, that is technically more chop, but even aesthetically, because you get deeper into it in the sense of like you learn more about harmony. The more experience you have, you learn all the elements of music: harmony, rhythm, and what else is there? Melody, harmony, and rhythm. Right. Well, Woody was just the idea of concentration, being able to focus on that level every night, no matter what went down. If you had a bus trip for 8 hours, a plane trip for 5 hours, or a bus trip for 5 minutes, you have to focus the same to keep the level of the band up and yourself up, and not to get fired. And Buddy Rich was the same thing, but it was even more work because Buddy was a little more famous than Woody, as far as he was more of a TV star. Like at the time, Johnny Carson made him very famous. And his music was harder technically, not aesthetically, but technically. So now you had more focus on harder music that you have to keep up every night. And believe me, with Buddy, you definitely have to keep it up every night because he would let you know. Okay. Now Mel and Thad wouldn't even think about having you unless you had that experience. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. Mel and Thad and Mel were the real life. Not putting down the high school and college, not belittling that at all. That's not. I'm just trying to put it in a certain scenario of you could see the steps. Buddy Rich was a master because of his technique. He was in most incredible. I talked to Art Blakey, Max Roach, Mel Lewis, A.T., Arthur Taylor, and the younger guys, Lewis Nash, anybody, Philly Joe Jones, anybody could play drums. Kenny Washington. They all say this, that he had the most incredible technique of any drum. He's a freak. Not to be negative, it's not a negative term. A freak in the positive way, okay? And that's why I thought, and then Mel Lewis was the total antithesis. He was not sloppy, but he had his own technique, but his thing was really swinging and playing with a band and getting under the band to speak, rather than getting on top of the band and just like go over. He got under the band and made it funkier, and made it swing. And then the way he played with soloists, we play this tune called Little Pixie. It's we play a melody. Every saxophone player takes a solo. when Mel would play with us, no matter, start with Lavano. He played differently under Lavano. Billy Drews played differently under Billy Drews. Oates, different. Me, different. Smolian, different. Because he could say, oh man, this is my band, you play with me. No, he didn't say that. He had enough compassion and listening, back to listening again, to make you sound good. You know, so that's why he was incredible to me, you know, because of his compassion and just trying to make you swing, have a ball. It's a ball. Ensemble playing, very important. Everybody got to feel the beat, you know. You have, and obviously you have to play your instrument very well. So you have to play in tune. You have to listen. It's like good acting. If you ever hear actors talk about what is one of the most important things about acting is listening to the line before you. Listen to the other actor to feed off of. Same with ensemble playing in music. You have to listen. Your ears have to engulf the rhythm section in jazz, and also the other, if you have other horn players, which you do in a big band or an ensemble octet and on that, you have to listen to your other players and really zone in on them so you could play. It's the way I try to explain. It's like an organ. You know, you hear somebody play boo, 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 boo on the organ. Everything is balanced, you know, because for whatever reason, as far as technically on the organ, it sounds like one thing rather than 5 different notes. Same when you're playing the saxophone, saxophone section. You play the saxophone, you got to sound like one thing rather than 5 different guys, you know. And 5 different guys can have 5 different sounds. But when you're playing together and listening, it sounds like one sound. And that takes a lot of experience too, you know. And intonation, which means private study too. You know, private, when you're practicing, you got to get the notes in tune and then tune it up with other people, you know, which is listening to them. Well, one thing, I think that everybody should have a hero or heroes. In other words, you should have, especially when you're first starting out, you got to have somebody you admire and even plagiarize. There's no law in jazz that says you can't plagiarize. When you're flattering somebody, the first thing is imitation. That's the truest form of flattery, is imitation. And even art, you imitate, then you get a little more creative. You start understanding what you imitate. Then you have the right to be free with it. Then after even more years, you get to be free with it. See, so I think the first part is definitely imitation, and especially in the jazz thing. Not that the end result is that you want to sound like Bird or Coltrane, but you want to learn from them, and you want to explore what they have to say, because they're the masters of this music. How could you learn how to talk unless you heard English language? How could you learn the English language unless you heard somebody speak it? So how do you learn jazz unless you learn from a master who speaks it well, you know? And then that doesn't mean you have to like somebody, but you will like somebody, you want to be attracted to the music. So go for what you like. You know, if you like John Coltrane, you go. If you like Hank Mobley, you go with him, you know? And because that's what turns you on, you know? And respect yourself enough to understand what they did. It's like walking down the street. You see this, you have the money. You see a suit that you like. I'm going to look great in this suit, man. Wow, that's me. Why do you buy it? Because you respect yourself enough to make yourself feel good in it and look good in it. And why do you buy it again? Because you respect yourself and love yourself. So you're hearing some great lick, like say, why don't you respect yourself enough to learn it? So you could have it there, and then that's just the beginning. The imitation's the beginning. Then you, like I say, once you repeat it 1,000 times, then you get it in your ear, in your system. Then you start taking chances with it, getting creative with it, and then you become yourself with it. But on a higher level, they're not doing that because you invaded a master's territory. Musical ideas, and I hold long tones I'm a saxophone player because sound is very important. Because the thing about jazz is that you should have a personal sound. You know, should have a personal sound, because that's what separates you from him, you know. And people want you because of your sound, you know. If everybody sounds the same, which does happen sometimes, I don't even know who I'm listening to. If I listen to Sonny Rollins and John Coltrane, I know the difference. Johnny Griffin, Hank Mobley, I know the difference, you know. Stanley Turrentine and Ornette Coleman, even though Ornette plays out, I know the difference. Why? Personality, sound, you know. So I hold long tones, practice technique, yes. Learn songs, go to the piano, practice, learn harmony on the piano, learn harmony on the saxophone, you know. And then when I start doing records, I start writing too, originals, you know. But when you're playing jazz, you're spontaneously writing. You're spontaneous composition. So all these elements of music, like the harmony, the melody, and the rhythm, you got to, I don't care if you're writing or not, you are writing when you're playing. It's being spontaneous in this sound. So you got to have it all together, you know. The more you have together, you know, the better it is. The more fun it is. Well, learn harmony, yeah. That's the best way to learn. I mean, even on a guitar, if you play good, that's all right. It's harmony, the function of harmony. Because jazz, that's what you're doing. Even if you're playing one chord, a song, there's so many things you could do, superimpose over that. So even though the one chord is being played with one ostinato bass line, you could go thousands of places, you know. And then you're playing standards and bebop tunes, or tunes with a lot of chords. You got to know that. That's why I teach a lot of chords at first, because when you know a lot of chords, then you're going to be more interesting on one chord. That's what I think. You know, a lot of people don't think it that way, but I do. You know, be a lot more interesting on one chord when you know a lot of chords. Rhythm. Some of the rhythm is. I think a lot of kids pass up the rhythm. They don't practice in time. I don't mean strict ta-ta-ta-ta in time, but I mean the phrases. In other words, when you play music, any art, I don't care if it's abstract, you know, or music dissonant or consonant, it's still got to be clear. So when guys play out of rhythm, it's not very clear. You know what I mean? So to me, they're not really making music. And it can be hard clear, easy clear, soft clear, loud clear, complicated clear, very simple clear. You know, it's just clarity. And just to be more specific, practice in rhythm. Don't just go da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's much clearer. Da-da-da-da-da. That's one of the biggest problems, I think, rhythm. It takes a lot of love. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a love for the art, love for yourself, a lot of discipline, and I would move. I mean, jazz-wise, anyway. All right, New York City is the place. You know, I've been here 30 years, like I said earlier. I've been all over. One thing about jazz, another thing about jazz. You talk about money and stuff. I've been all over the world for free. I made money all over the world. I remember one time going home on a plane. I was coming from Rome, sitting with these elderly Italian people, and they were telling me, "Oh yeah, I just spent my whole savings account that I saved for 25 years to come to Rome to see my family, to see, you know, Italy, see my home country." And I felt so guilty. I've been to Rome 90,000 times, getting paid for it. And I felt so bad. And these people were wonderful. They weren't complaining. They were just saying, yeah, I had my life's, you know, not savings, but I saved for my life for this trip. And I do this every day almost. Not every day, but you know, I do it a lot, and I get paid for it to see the world. So that's another thing about, you know, it's not bad, you know, to do all that. You know, I saw the world, I ate all the different kind of food. I know people all over the world. It's, you know, international, you know. Then plus I know the people on 15th Street too, you know, same thing. Well, yeah, love, discipline, practice, and money helps, especially in this town. Try to, you know, if you're coming from out of town to this town, I would try to have some money, you know, saved up with this in mind. You don't want to come here with $300 and then tomorrow you don't have any money. You know, I mean, you got to be smart too. You know, you got to be, you know, and then you might even have to do other jobs, but always have time for your art. You know, don't just say, oh, I'm going to work, you know, 60 hours being a, you know, a computer guy. You know, you're not going to feel like going home and getting into your art. You know, a lot of people make that mistake. You make the money, you know, and you know, whatever it is, and then try to make money playing gigs too. You know, like I said earlier, I didn't always play the gigs that I loved at first. You know, I just kept, you know, wanted to, you know, support my jazz habit. You know, so you know, you got to be smart with it. You know, you can't, you know, just say, oh yeah, I'm going to go there, everything's going to be wonderful. No, it's not. People say plan it, yeah, but if you have the attitude of this day you want to make some money, you love this stuff, and this is what you want to do, you go for it. You go for it. Don't be afraid to go for it, man. Believe me, you know. Man, when I grew up in West Ellicott, Pennsylvania, near the railroad tracks, I had no idea I was going to be right here in front of this camera right now. At NYU, playing in the greatest bands and having 5 records out. Believe me, I didn't have any idea. I thought I was going to be a high school band director or football coach.